to understand indoor air quality and what it is, what it isn't, and then strategies for enhancing the indoor air quality at the schools, and then the energy implications of the IAQ enhancements. And then finally, I'll end about how you can apply these to your districts or your facilities as well. So why this presentation? It's because healthy students learn. And so a little bit about Clark County School District. We're the 5th largest school district in the nation, and was established in 1956 with only 20,000 students, but now we have over 300,000 students in the district. And that is we have 400,000 employees that work there in 386 schools, along with a total of 400 facilities. So the administration buildings as well. So that equates to 20,000 classrooms, and it covers all of Clark County, and we're located across 14 cities here in southern Nevada. Can I have a show of hands? Are you guys from Nevada? Anyone here? Okay, so you guys know who Clark County School District is. Approximately 2,500 buildings. So it's massive, being the 5th largest in the nation. And we'll talk a little bit about the implement. So here's just a geographical representation of it. I guess I don't have a pointer, but in the middle there is a state of Nevada. So Clark County is obviously in the southern tip of Nevada, and it's bordered by California and Arizona. But then the map in the back, excuse me, whoops. No, that's not how you go back. There we go. Oh, I thought I had another map. But the map in the back is, so we have 3 regions that we've broken down to manage this large area with respect to facility management. So healthier indoor contributes to a better mental clarity and focus and enhancing overall well-being for both students and the staff. And this slide is really busy. But the reason I bring it up is because, yes, indoor air quality does help with these things, but I'd like to see it more holistically approach to the school environment where kids want to come, and that's where they see their friends, that's where they have these relationships with other students and their teachers and the administration as well. It's a safe environment as well as a healthy indoor environment, and then that helps as well with these things. Health and productivity, positive learning environment, and alignment with safety standards is my point for this busy slide. So IAQ is a priority for our students and our staff as well. We recognize that that indoor air quality is not just a technical issue, and I'll go over some of these aspects, and it is a fundamental aspect of our commitment to the health and safety of our students and staff. And by making sure that our rooms are clean, properly ventilated, we are safeguarding the well-being of our school community, which directly impacts their learning, staff performance, and overall school success. Again, understanding indoor air quality leads to healthy students that learn. So what is indoor air quality? Indoor air quality is the air both inside and out the building. Pollutants can come from outside, but mostly inside, from the building materials, the cleaning materials, and the occupants themselves and other mechanisms within the classroom. You can have single exposures to the air pollutants and symptoms like allergies, the air pollution that you can find. Contaminants that we find in the classroom are mostly particulate matter, we do find VOCs, volatile organic compounds, which are mostly related to our cleaning products or other fragrances that maybe teachers will put in, the potpourris or things like of that nature, or from building products like formaldehyde. But you have to have a contaminant source, and then you have to have the receiver of it, and a pathway for that receiver to get the exposure. And with air quality, it's mostly inhalation, but you can have dermal or surface contact and ingestion routes as well. And I've kind of gone on over this. Good indoor air quality contributes a sense of well-being, favorable learning environment, and favorable performance not only for the students, but the teachers and the staff. And ultimately, kids that stay in the classroom learn, so we want good indoor air quality reduces absenteeism. Asthma is actually the leading cause of school absenteeism, and from this slide you can see that there's a lot of it doesn't have to do with indoor air quality. It has to do with other things like comfort factors, cold air, and the other things that are on here. So these are the other triggers that we need to look at as well. So strategies for enhancing indoor air quality. First of all, what to assess, and that it's not only pollutants that you need to assess for people's comfort. You need to look at their thermal comfort and the other things on here like the lighting, the noise. But one of the things about the school environment, we're not like a manufacturing facility, so you're not going to, it's pretty well known what the pollutants are going to be within the classroom that may impact the school environment, such as cleaning products is really something that we've looked at to make sure that we're not bringing in volatile organics into the classroom. And not only, I thought this was an interesting slide, and that's why I included it, is because not only do you need to know what you're assessing, but for whom. And what this shows is that depending on, sometimes some people might think it's too hot in the classroom, or other teachers might think it's too cold. So you have to look at who you're assessing the room for. Let's say you have, it's a special needs classroom. They might have sensitivities to other things that you might need to look for versus a standard classroom as well. And again, this is just to emphasize that not all facility related problems are indoor air quality. Survey of, how can teachers better serve their students. And you can see that things like too few electrical cords or plumbing issues are higher percentage rates than some of the things to do with the room being too cold, too hot. Then we look at pest management down there as well, being part of the environment. But it just gives you an idea that it's not always indoor air quality that's causing the discomfort or the low productivity in the classroom. It can be other aspects as well. That's the background of that. So I was going to now talk about more of the case study. So I've been working at the school district for the last 10 years, and my background is in environmental sciences. I'm actually a microbiologist as well. And so when I got to the district in 2015, I brought that experience to we have an indoor environmental staff. It was originally brought in the 90s to get rid of all the asbestos in the buildings. We're a newer school district, like I mentioned earlier. We don't have things like leaded pipes and whatnot. And a lot of what I'm talking about today is for the desert environment and not for, back east where there's a lot more moisture, coldness, whatnot. Where you have you have windows to open. We don't here in the desert environment. So a lot of things I'm saying, it does apply to this desert environment. So when I got here, we used to use, We used to use, you can kind of see it in the middle of this picture on the desktop. We used handheld devices that would measure things like volatile organics, CO2, particulate matter, et cetera. And when a work order would come in, we would go to the classrooms. And so here's a picture of just one of those classrooms where we received a work order where the teacher was just saying she's not feeling well. It was in a portable classroom, and lo and behold, you can, I don't know if you can see it, but the CO2 value was over 2,000 parts per million in the classroom. And outdoor levels, background levels are 4,000 parts per million. So we definitely had an indoor air quality issue with respect to ventilation in this portable. And exactly what she was describing were these symptoms. She was getting headaches. She wasn't, and these are, you can get panic attacks when you have excess CO2 in your classroom. It's enough to have, the stress of maybe the kids alone, but to not have that fresh air where your CO2 levels are low, you don't need that on top of it. But she was explaining that she, wasn't feeling well. She was getting headaches towards the end of the day. She was in there 8 hours a day, or not 8 hours, probably more like 6 hours in these portables at those levels. So it's no wonder she was having these types of carbon dioxide exposure symptoms. So like I described, a work order came in for this. This is kind of the process that we do. We have a work order system that they'll put into facilities with the facility managers for our schools, and then that gets routed to whatever it needs, whatever core shop it needs, whether it's plumbing. In this case, it came to environmental services. And then I've developed my in-house technicians. They're trained to go in and visually inspect the room for environmental pollutants, and then they have checklists as well, not only for the classroom, but we have an occupant interview that we give them, because that's really important to find out the information to help identify what might be going on. And then we put a simple memorandum letting them know what we found, if anything, and the steps they need to take to follow up. It might be another child work order if, let's say, we find something wrong with the ventilation to put into that, or if we find mold, we'll have, it will follow up with that as well. So that's that process. Well, in this particular case, this is typically what we find on portable buildings. We have a single, our HVAC units are single units like you find at your home. And unfortunately, what you're looking at in the center there is supposed to be a filter there, and there was no filter. We talked about rooftops. If you don't take care of your rooftops, sometimes they can lead to problems such as mold. And then the other filter is on the air intake, return in the classroom, and you can see how filthy that is. So just a lot of problems going on with this portable. Just to put things in perspective, again, for the large district that we are, we have 90,000 filters we have to change every time we do it. So and unfortunately, we haven't had the funding to do it on a regular basis. So when COVID, with ESSER funds, we replaced them all. We upgraded them as we could to the higher filter levels, but not all the time, as you guys are probably well aware, can you do that, because the units are older and cannot handle the pressure drops of the higher filtration filters. So anyway, this is what it looks like to have a school in Vegas. Yes, we do have neighborhoods. That was a question when I would get asked a lot when I first started living here. It's like, you guys have homes? And yeah, we all don't live on the Strip. In fact, I hardly ever come here. But again, so what we've gone to, so with that So I've known all along that our portables are a challenge because of the way they were originally spec'd for the HVAC systems with no fresh air intake. And it's hard to go, from site to site to evaluate what's going on in the classroom. So we've gone from the handheld ones to installing indoor air quality monitors that are really easy. They're plug and play, and they're smart. They use smart technologies, and they have a dashboard that's available for you to look at. You can receive emails or text alerts when you have problems with like CO2 levels. So it's just a way to make the invisible visible with these indoor air quality monitors. We don't have them throughout the whole school district. I started on a pilot level to see, how to use these and whatnot. And again, we have 20,000 classrooms, so we just lack the funding to put one in every room. I'd like one in every room, but it's just a matter of finding that funding to get those installed. But we'll do it on an as-needed basis. I see we can prioritize. We have what's called a transformational network, which is kind of our disadvantaged area schools. There's 23 of them. And so I'm just using the approach of let's find the funding to do what we can as we can until, maybe someone mandates that we have them in all the classrooms, some law, regulation. I know that California is going that way. They already have one in law where all the classrooms have to have at least a CO2 monitor. But Nevada's not there yet. So that's how we do that. But so this is, again, a different busy slide. But so indoor air quality, so again, my background is environmental, and I've done permitting facilities for outdoor air quality. And that's where all these standards pretty much come from. The standards for indoor air quality are based really on outdoor air quality. And that's one of the things I use to evaluate indoor air quality is a comparison to the outdoors levels to the indoor levels is ultimately, what you want to do. So with carbon dioxide, EPA is setting the limit at 1,000, and OSHA has a varied degree of them. You can see that the levels that I was at was unhealthy in that one classroom between 1,000 and 2,500. And then you have your NIOSH standards, which were time weighted, but they're really high. But it's important, to keep them as low as you can. But that's going to be really expensive and difficult to do as an industry overall in these classrooms because it boils down to improving ventilation most of the times, and that can be costly to do. One of the other things that happens is, EPA putting out a level of 1,000. A lot of times the parents or guardians don't understand that 1,000 is just a standard that we want to shoot for. It's not an exposure level that's hazardous to their child's health. Oftentimes, the kids will come back from recess and these levels go up to 1,800, but then with the proper ventilation rates, they'll come right back down. So it's just important to know that any of these standards, while they exist, were meant for outdoors, and we are a school environment, so you're not going to see these things typically only when it's due to the occupant themselves. Obviously, that's where the CO2 comes from in the school classroom. Particulate matter. So I've taken a lot of samples, air samples, and I do not only for mold and pollen, but I do for other particulate matters. And the amount of skin cells in these classrooms is a lot more higher than we see with mold and pollen. And so it's a good way if you're to understand, is the cleaning good in that room? When the teacher's complaining about looking at just that as well, and the high particulate matter can mean you just need to do a better job at cleaning that room. For example, we had a room that did have high skin cells, over 3,000 parts per million of skin cells in the room, which was relatively high. And what we found out was that the HVAC system was kind of concentrating everything in the room. And on top of that, the custodian hadn't been in that room. So we had an inch of just fuzz on top of the ceiling that we ended up having to bring in a contractor and clean up above the ceiling cavity to take care of that particulate matter. So it was a combination of just the system trapping all that in there, and then having the custodian not get in there and do the proper vacuuming of those particulate matter. So what happened was we installed the air quality monitors in our adult education center, which is only portable systems, portable classrooms. Even the admin is portable buildings. And so we installed them all in each classroom. And the one thing we did on our first attempt was we installed them at the breathing zone and the air intake to see if we saw any difference, and we didn't. So we found out that you can install these just in the breathing zone, these air quality monitors. But what we found out at this school, it's an older school, all the thermostats were broken in these portable classrooms. So one of the things that the teachers had been told is if they take a portable classroom, they have full control over the thermostat. But unfortunately, these thermostats were broken. And so, and then on top of that, these had this single package units on the rooftops. And so so that's when I worked to figure out what to do with respect to these thermostats. And so there's a note on there, you can't really read it, but it talks about turning the system on and off before they go in order to make the room comfortable when they get there. To your right is the new smart thermostats that we installed into the classroom. What you're seeing here is the dashboard from the air quality monitor, and they have all kinds of different widgets and ways to display your information. But this is just an example of before we installed it. You don't see much difference because the units were on 24/7, literally weekends, evenings, just on. And I had people tell me, like, I walk by there at 7 o'clock at night. Why is that still running? We get pretty hot here, and so they're setting them at like 73, so a lot of energy just being wasted. And so then we installed these smart thermostats, and then you're able to schedule them online, off your laptop or computer, and schedule them all at once, which is really wonderful. So we went from having them on all the time to just not off on the weekends, but higher temperatures on the weekends and off at night. And we saved 50% energy costs just by doing that, which equated to $50,000 a month in energy savings. So we installed 1,700 of these in all the portables throughout the district to realize those cost savings. A little bit more about these smart thermostats. They have what's called a pearl on them that you install in the HVAC unit. So when we have now spec'd them to have an economizer on them so that that pearl will control the ventilation as on demand, on CO2 demand, so that it can constantly refresh the portables that way as well. So these air quality monitors are great to have, like I said, because they can alert you to problems. You can see what's going on site-wide. We recently had an incidents where they were reading high levels of CO2 at an older facility, and we have since gone down and addressed all the issues that they were having, and the CO2 levels are now within healthy ranges. So. Moving toward, I thought this was cute. If there's a pile of manure in a space, do you try to remove the odor by ventilation, or no, you remove the pile of manure? And my point of doing that is it's a relationship between indoor air quality, preventative maintenance, and energy efficiency. This is actually from EPA. This is their strategy. A lot of the work that I have done, the tools that I have for assessing indoor air quality come from EPA. They have what's called EPA Tools of Schools, Tools for Schools, for indoor air quality. So if you've not seen that, you could check that out. And so we're trying to do a better job of integrating these three things together. It's a process. It's going to take some time because, our buildings are, while they were built to code, for the time being, they're a lot of them have had their life, and we're limping along until we can get to, upgrade them and make them more energy efficient. But it's just a process. But I have some good news that I want to share with everybody here. And I guess if the key takeaway here is that schools are schools that we don't really have. I don't like it when they say 90% of the indoor air quality is poor compared to outdoors, or 10 times poorer than outdoors. Well, of course it is, because we're having activities inside the classrooms. But what I mean by that is, as well, is it's not a manufacturing place. You're not going to be. Our children are not being exposed to hazardous chemicals, and I have proof for that. So, and that's so. As this shows, we have 95% healthy indoor air quality, but carbon dioxide is a problem if you don't have the right ventilation. And humidity is another funny thing here in the desert for two aspects. The standard is higher than our humidity average here in the desert. So I do get worried about things like that. Like even with particulate matter, this isn't a desert environment, so EPA or OSHA or whoever does these standards needs to take into consideration the different environments for where they're, setting these standards for. We used to be non-attainment for dust, but we don't want to close the whole classrooms up. There's a time to close the classrooms up, like particularly we had fires recently and had ozone and particulate matter coming into the classrooms, and those types of things you would want to close the vents. But other times you don't want to close them just because the particulate matter outside might be high just because we're in the desert. And same with humidity. Obviously, we can't raise humidity very cost effectively. One of the things that they just need to create an awareness of, especially as we get new teachers at the school district, is that when you come to a desert environment like this, you're going to have these symptoms that you might not feel better at school than at home because you're not used to the dryness and the air. So you get hay fever-like symptoms just from being in this new dry environment. And new teachers will come here and not understand that they have to adapt to the heat, to the low humidity as well. But again, just to reiterate, If there is no contaminant, obviously there's not going to be exposures. So, but if we can control things like the moisture, believe it or not, even though we are a desert environment, we have leaks, plumbing leaks, flooding, you know, our roofs leak and that kind of thing. So we do get mold. But mold isn't as big a problem out here as it would be in like the East Coast, I imagine, or more humid places. And then the last thing that we do use air purification devices and in the classrooms when we feel like we can't do it by other means, like increasing the ventilation. And we're also looking at different devices that can move the air in the classroom as well, like a device that is like a light fixture, can be a light fixture, but it's also got UV, it's got a fan so that it will mix the air in the room as well as purify it by the UV treatment. We're looking at that kind of thing. I'm also looking at, I have a little known fact, not only is UV disinfecting outdoors, so is there's a small level of hydrogen peroxide outdoors. That will disinfect. So I'm testing a new device at one of our schools on a pilot level that takes the water in the air, even though we have a little bit, and uses the catalyst to, is that going to go back on? To create hydrogen peroxide, very low levels, safe levels, so that when someone sneezes in the classroom, that the hydrogen peroxide molecules are right there, just like outdoors, to capture and prevent infectious from spreading. So here's the proof. We had the transformational schools tested for what their ventilation was like, and 95% of the ventilation units passed, meaning that they were at a higher enough equivalent put out by ASHRAE. And so this slide shows that we did have some units at the school that didn't perform well. Those have since been fixed, but they were very few. And so what I'm trying to say here is even though we know we got to do a good job with ventilation, we're already doing an okay job. In fact, in part of this, on the right side of the scale, you can see that there's energy, we're ventilating too much. So it's this kind of data that we can use to make our schools more efficient. But the good news is that we were the first in the nation to be UL certified as having proper ventilation within these schools. So areas to improve building health is obviously IAQ, education, and for me that just means educating the occupants and the people that take care of the buildings, how they may or impact the indoor air quality. And I'm looking at occupancy sensors now to put in the classrooms along with the air quality monitors because it's really hard to get the absenteeism data. Absenteeism data can vary based on different reasons. So with the occupancy sensors, it's going to be able to tie the indoor air quality data with the amount of occupants in the room, and then we can say, oh, we've got too many kids in the classroom because the CO2 is always up or the particulate matter's too high. We can tie that all together by looking at all the data. And the goal is always to reduce absenteeism. Of course, building design should be on occupancy, based on occupancy size. Again, that goes back to the CO2 loading of the room. But I have to tell you, one of the biggest problems I've seen is they'll take a space and they'll repurpose it, but they won't look at the ventilation design of it as well. And so, for example, we did this, we were taking care of our refrigerators at our warehouse, and then the fumes from the from the refrigerant were going into the office building that they restructured, and they were getting exposed to VOCs that way. So a lot of times when we recently designed to have a new design, and when those fires hit, the cafeteria just filled up with the smoke. So you just have to make sure that your design is not causing more problems. And then the other thing, too, is adequate custodial and maintenance staff, obviously. We all struggle there. We do the best we can. We're trying to get, caught up. We're in a reactive mode most of the time. We're hoping to get to a proactive approach, but one of the problems with that is, I don't know if you've had it, but when we build new buildings, we don't include the funding to maintain it over the life of the building. And so we're hoping to move in those directions. Where we're including the maintenance costs for the life of the building. Like I said, those filter changes don't regularly happen. That's a different budget. It's like it's a lot of money. It's like, where does that money come from? But it's key to in improving indoor air quality, enhancing indoor air quality. And I chose the word enhancing because, like I said, we are doing well. We're not a hazardous facility. We just need to enhance what we're doing and take care of the problem areas. Here's just some other areas to help is stay at home when you're ill. That's kind of, let's keep the contaminant outs kind of same vein. And we need carbon dioxide. If you're going to measure anything for your indoor air quality, I would use carbon dioxide. And then procurement products. Another problem we have is people are continuing to use the disinfectant for COVID like they were. There's a lot, and the disinfectant is a pesticide, but it's allowed to be used because of the way it's used. Otherwise, pesticides aren't allowed to be applied unless you have a license. But there's other disinfectants, and using education, you can explain to the teachers that, by doing that, you're limiting the amount of chemicals that can trigger asthma, which is the number one reason for absenteeism. I'm hoping to get to a point where these air quality monitors can tell us whether we need to clean a room or not. So it will allow for more effective cleaning schedules, that kind of thing. And then sustainable building design and construction. And I don't build on an industrial waste disposal site for $1. And what I mean by that is 80% of the lands here in Nevada are public lands, and we have like over 36 schools built on public lands, and we get those lands for $1. And we built one right next to asphalt plant. All I'm saying is let's be smarter about where we put our schools so we don't have the outdoor pollutants coming in. And then again, I mentioned preventative maintenance funding for the life of the school. So I think with that, thanks for being here. I appreciate it. And if you have any questions, I don't know if we have time. Maybe not. I think the session, if you guys want to stay, or I'll be happy to answer any questions for you. With that, all right, well, thank you for attending.